Okay, so I'm not sure how many of you are joining us for the first time. This is the second live stream that we are doing in the series. The first one was basically to help people who are starting off with a career in digital marketing, and this one is going to be on personal branding. So before I go into who we are and where we come from, I am Sooraj Divakaran, and along with me I have Anandan Pillai. Both of us have been in the marketing domain for a long time. Before we go into our formal introductions, I want to set the context of why we are doing this. So we feel that personal branding is very critical at this point in time, especially with the economic downturn that is happening. People are losing jobs, and even without that kind of a context, I think personal branding is pretty important if you are looking at either growing your business or elevating yourself career-wise. So we're not going to do a workshop where we're going to tell you the 10 commandments or the 20 commandments of personal branding. These are the 10 things that you should do, and therefore it will elevate your personal brand. What we're going to do is we're going to give you a framework, and this particular framework is based on the experience that both of us have, because both of us have built websites, have built a personal brand over the last few years, and we're also going to give you a lot of perspective on what works and what doesn't, basis the approach that we're going to share in this presentation. So without further ado, I think I'll move into in the introduction slides. So I am Sooraj Divakaran, and I have over 11 years of experience, both on B2B and B2C side of marketing. And when it comes to personal branding, I have built my own website, which has been active for the last 6 to 7 years. And it currently ranks among the top 100 online marketing blogs, and gets 50,000 plus visitors every year. And besides that, I'm pretty active on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And over to Anandan for his introduction.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. Good evening. So my name is Anandan Pillai, and been in the digital field for almost 10 years now, most of which I spent on the agency side, except for a couple of years I was working with HCL Technologies on the brand side. Other than that, I have, like Suraj, I too blog, and then I have been active on most of the social media channels, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, or on my own blog. And along with that, as far as my education credentials go, I have also done a PhD in marketing with specialization in digital marketing from MDI Gurgaon. So I also teach at many educational institutes specifically for MBA students on digital marketing, social media marketing, etc. So look forward to the session, and as the context was set by Suraj, this framework would definitely help you to rethink and self explore yourself, so that you can get prepared to how to build your brand in an organized manner. Okay, so let's get started, Suraj. Okay, so first of all, why there is a need for a personal brand, and also so it's not that just because today we are facing a problem of economic recession or some external factors are affecting our lives. Some of us have faced salary cuts or pay cuts, and some of us have been unfortunate to even lose jobs. But on over a long period of time, if you realize, then the building a personal brand is very essential for each one of us in a very competitive industrial market. So if you see today, if you look around, everyone is an engineer or everyone is an MBA, or even from a maybe from a tier one institute, as most of the companies would want to hire. Then how does one differentiate oneself from the other, even if both the candidates are from, say, the top management institute in the country? I am Ahmedabad. So it's not just so the both of them have got the same credentials from the same top university, but then why should someone be hired over the other? So it all depends, like what skills you have brought to the table, or how you have differentiated well, How why should people listen to you? So those kind of questions come into the picture. So broadly, if you see this slide talks about the four things. So you have to focus and you have to build yourself for the competitive environment that is around, and secondly, you have to create your own identity. So this identity can be from your professional domain. Say you are a good technical architect, or you are a good digital marketer, or maybe you are a good salesperson, or maybe a lawyer, or maybe a doctor. But then it can also be come from your tangential passion oriented areas. Like you might be a digital marketer, but you are also a good painter, or you are a good guitarist. So that can come also from your other passionate areas. So you need to identify your passion areas, and you need to decide that on what areas do you want to build your brand on, and how will you differentiate yourself from the others. So just focus on your strengths and work on it, and this will help you to differentiate yourself from the others. And most importantly, why would someone listen you and not others? It depends on the how different your point of opinion is compared to the other people in the room or in the market. So you should be different, you should be unique, or you should have the very different perspective from the others, for yourself to differentiate from the others in the market. Suraj?
Yeah. So I think to add to Anandan's point, and where we are also sort of try to summarize in the next slide, is when you're thinking of personal branding, think of film stars, think of footballers, and what you will realize is that uh, they have an independent equity, right? Their equity is not linked to the equity that the company they work for. So their equity is not derived from the organization that they work for, and this is what ultimately all of us want, right? We want an independent equity. So a footballer like Lionel Messi, he might change his team, but he carries his name, his stats, his fans with him each time he moves from one team to another. And ultimately, I think personal branding is the equity that you build, and your equity is independent of the company that you work for. It's not derived from the kind of designation that you hold. It's not kind of derived from the status of the company that you work for. It's basically derived from the person who you are, the kind of expertise that you have, the kind of connections that you have built over time. And what happens over time is that your equity is so strong that you carry your equity along with you every time you move your job. And I think ultimately this is what most of us want to build. We want to build an equity that is independent and not only linked to the company or the organization that you work for. And I think there are a couple of reasons why this is important, as Anandan rightly mentioned. Uh, we are working in a very changing times. I mean, this is a time where I think loyalty doesn't get valued as much as it used to get valued 10 or 20 years back. Right? I know of friends who work with the same company for 10 years, and because of what is happening in this industry at this point in time, a lot of them have lost their jobs. So that is why it is more important that you build an independent equity so that you carry that along with you every time you move your company. So how do you get started? I think there are five questions that we have framed even before you think of personal branding, and I think a lot of you guys are already trying to build your personal brands in different ways. Some of you might be posting content on social media. Uh, some of you might be putting out some content on Medium and other blogs that you would have created. But what we are going to do is give you more clarity or focus on how you should channel all your work towards building your personal brand. So the most important thing is to figure out what are your goals. What is it that you're trying to achieve with this activity? Like if putting out 3 or 4 or 5 pieces of content in a week, there has to be a clear focus on the kind of goals that you want to achieve. Is it that you want to build your personal brand so that you can start your own business? Or is it that you want to grow in terms of designations within the same organization that you work for? Or is it that you're looking for a senior designation with another company in your field? So your goal has to be pretty clear, and those goals can be it could also be something like self improvement, right? I want to be better at what I do, so therefore I read a lot and I want to improve. And building the personal brand ultimately helps you also in improving yourself. So have a clear goal. then also have values to support that particular goal, right? What is it that you really value? What is it that you really understand, right? So I think it has to be happen. It has to happen at the intersection of your passion and your interests. So you might be very passionate about marketing, and therefore you want to talk about marketing when you are building your personal brand, and it also has some linkage to the kind of work that you do, or it could be in an area which is not clearly related to your job, but something else that you're interested in. Like Anandan rightly mentioned, it could be related to food, movies, or something else that you want to do. But you also have to understand, is it something that you're really good at, right? So you could be passionate about something, but is it something that you are really good at? I mean, from a perception point of view, you have to ask your friends, is this something that I'm really good at, something that I can do? And also factor their opinion in, because once you start, you have to make sure that the kind of content or the point of view that you showcase is different from others, and that can come when you have some amount of experience or you have a very strong inclination towards it. And secondly, whatever you're doing, it has to motivate you, right? I mean, you can't be talking about something that you're not interested in, and it will clearly show in the kind of content that you put out. And over time, what you should focus on is trying to have a point of view that makes you remarkable, that makes you different from others in the lot. So those are the five questions that you should answer in terms of before you think of building your personal brand. Yeah, Anand.
Okay, so once you have thought about, what is your passion and how do you uh, go, how do you want to get started and all, but still, what we have observed is that many people are very clear on it, but we are not able to continue the momentum. Okay, so that's a big problem with ourselves. Like, okay, we might be very religious in putting our dinner photographs or our hangout photographs on the Facebook and Instagram, but when it comes to expressing our passion or expressing our identity, then we many of us lack, or we are not regular on it, right? So these are some of the factors that we need to be really watchful of and try to avoid them, because these factors come may derail the entire journey of building the personal brand. So don't if you so like these are the couple of points. I'll start with the first one. Like many of us might think, why should someone listen to me, or whether if I put out a post, whether people will like that post or not, or whether people will share that post or not, or if I put a YouTube video, how many views will I get? Will I get 100 views or a 500 views? So don't be concerned about that. Actually, you should get started. So like if had I and Suraj been worried, that whether we will get 50 viewers on YouTube or not, we wouldn't be doing this session today. So it's not about what is the turnout or the what is the result, but it shows that whether you are committed to your goal, whether you are committed to your passion, are you able to stick to it or not. So don't worry about others, but you once you get started, people will realize the crowd will eventually fall in, right? The second thing is because today we witness a lot of video and audio related platforms. We will see that many people going live with videos on YouTube or maybe LinkedIn or maybe on say TikTok like platforms, or Facebook live sessions or Instagram live are very frequent and very widely used today. So you might think that whether I look good or whether I have a good video recording facility with me or not, or if I am a blogger, then will am I able to write good articles or not, or if I am say I do a podcast, then can I speak good, or am I audible, or like is my voice quality good or not. So don't worry about that. So all those things can be are like very smaller things in the entire gamut of things. So we all know the very famous case study, that Amitabh Bachchan was rejected for his voice at an All India radio, but he then went on to become the like one of, and later on, like after a few decades, his brand was built just because of his voice. So don't worry about all that. As long as you stick to the content, you stick to the your passion, you are able to contribute to the community around you. Just go ahead with it. The third thing could be like some of is even some in our last session, couple of them asked us that is it good, or is it like right to focus on other passion apart from the employer company or the employer you are associated with? So I think it, in our personal opinion, it is not at all any hindrance, and today's companies are very very open, and they are very welcome to this such initiatives. In fact, it helps to build the overall brand of the organization, because if you become famous, then people get to know about your company also. So there is, and especially in the startup environment, when most of us are working with startup product companies or startup service oriented companies, many of us, we may not know the company, but if I know that, okay, yes, there is a guy who works with so and so company, so then through him I might know the company, right? So why would an employer have an issue with you? Like, if as long as you become a much better brand than the organization itself, the employees wouldn't have any issue at all. But the only thing is, you should take care that you are not affecting the employer's brand, or you're not using the employer's products to market yourself. Just be away from all those things, but as long as you are using your own skills, it shouldn't be a problem for any of the employers. And lastly, like I said earlier, also, don't worry about the results. Just get started, go on it, keep working, maintain the momentum. Don't leave many breaks, and eventually you would reach at a stage where you would feel satisfied. And the other thing is that you should set yourself a goal. You know that, okay, I want to reach certain smaller goals, and if you and work towards it. But if you don't achieve it, don't get disheartened. You keep working, keep moving forward on it. Next slide, Suraj. Okay, so this is another question. Like, when people, many of people have asked us that where should I start? So should I start on my should I build on my own website, or should I start on, say, already widely used social media websites like Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, LinkedIn, or TikToks of the world? So where should we start? So there are, I mean, because like I and Suraj have been active on all the digital platforms for last 10 years. This is what we have realized over a long period of time. There are pros and cons of both the options available to us. So we see that, if you have your own website, then the pros are very clear, that you are the owner of it, right? So you are in complete control of it. You are the driver of the vehicle. So as long as it's in your control, you can pace up, pace down. You can change your quality of the content. You can change the design. Anything you want to do, you can do everything, right? So everything is in your content. And also, because you own your brand, then people also will know you much better compared to the other platforms. And this real estate or this property belongs to you, so it has more value compared to you having a presence on, say, on other social media channels. Okay, but then there are also some downside to it, right? So the downside is that, why would someone come to your website, or how many people will come to your website in what duration of time? So bringing audience to the website is a bit of challenge. In initial days specifically, you might face a lot of trouble. Like, you might see that not even 10 people coming to your website in a month, right? But then you need to keep going at it, keep continuing working on it, popularize the website through your own social media channels, like we both do. Like, we write blogs, and then we cross post it on our Twitter and LinkedIn channels, because we have a very strong community on LinkedIn and Twitter, both the channels. So try to get traffic from there. And once we have people coming to our website, then starts the repeat visitors who keep coming to our website to check the content that we post, right? So that is one challenge, that initially you might face, that you're not getting the right number of audience. And secondly, because you are living in your own house and not a rented one, so obviously the maintenance and everything would be higher. So you need to invest a decent amount every year on the domain name, on the server hosting of your website, on security aspects that you take care of your website. Or if you want to promote your website, then you might have to put some money on the paid channels. So all those things will require some money. So yes, some amount of monetary investment would be required, while this may not be required in case of the other platforms, right? Because you just go and create a Facebook channel, that's it, and you are on your own. Or you can just go and create a YouTube channel, and you can start posting the videos as many as you want, right? So ownership of the cost of owning a platform is negligible in the other platforms. But then there are also benefits of other platforms, like because you are already on Facebook and you have 800 900 friends, so anything that you post would be easily visible to them, right? So you have that captive audience in place. Similarly, like if you are on Twitter and say 10,000 people follow you, so if you post something, then you already have a large percentage of that audience who will consume your content. So that captive audience benefit is there on the other platforms. It also helps to increase virality. Like we keep hearing, this tweet got viral, or this video got viral, or this Facebook post got viral. So the viral effect is much higher on the social media platforms compared to your website. But then there are also risks, that we had a very recent example that all of a sudden a platform was asked to close down by the government, and everybody had a question mark on the face. So there is always a risk that happens, like we also in our days, like we started with Orkut, and then after a few days, few years, Orkut vanished. Then people created profile on Google Plus, and then it also vanished after a few years. So you never know that tomorrow maybe Facebook gets replaced by something else, or maybe Instagram gets replaced by some other channel. We never know that. So that risk will always be there. So but as long as you are there, the platform is there, you can get the benefit of the captive audience, the virality, but there is also a downside. But in case of website, your website is never going to go away from anywhere, right? So it's your own property, it's your like your own house. Nobody's going to ask you to vacate. So you can stay there and be in complete control of your website. Yeah, so I think Suraj.
Yeah, so just to add one point to what
Yeah.
Anandan said, one clear advantage that I see with building your own website is that there is scalability. So if, for instance, let's assume that you did a fantastic work in terms of building your personal brand, and now that your site has a lot of visitors, you want to monetize it, right? You want to do some sort of e-commerce integration. You want to sell some products or services to the kind of readers that you have. It's much easier to do that with a website compared to using an other platform where you will not be able to control the entire user experience, or you'll not be able to build in some technology which you want to, because that particular platform doesn't allow for it. So that's one very clear advantage that I see with building your own website. So in terms of best practices, I think we put it in three buckets. So one is, I think this is a challenge that you see with a lot of people. While people are very serious about building their personal brand, they don't have some sort of content cadence. So content cadence is, even if you look at YouTubers who are trying to build a brand, what you will see is that they post at least 3 or 4 pieces of content in a week. So that's the kind of content cadence that you have to build. So even before you start building your personal brand, you looked at all the five questions that are mentioned in the previous slide. Then you have to decide how many pieces of content you want to put on the channel that you've decided on a weekly basis. That's pretty important, because it will take you around 6 months to 1 year to sort of see results. And that can only happen when you have a clear content cadence where you say that, okay, I have to do this, I have to put out at least 2 to 3 pieces of content on the channels that I own, which could be website, which could be social media, which could be a YouTube channel, which could be any platform of your choice. So that is pretty important, and I think that requires a lot of effort and perseverance. And it's not that you're going to see results from day one. It's going to take you 3 6 months. It will be a gradual, slow process where you go from zero, 100 to 1,000 to 2,000. Right. So when I started my own blog, that's the same trajectory that I saw. For the first 1 year, there was hardly any traction. From second year, I started some people coming in. From third, it sort of blew up. So that is how it happens. It doesn't happen that you start something and you'll see traction from the day two or day three. Then I think it's very important to start conversation. I think this is a problem that a lot of people have. I mean, while they create a page and they put out a lot of content, they don't really focus on building a network or having a real conversation with their users, right? So if you're building a blog, make sure that you have conversation with all the readers that you have on your blog. If you're using social media, try and engage with a lot of people who are in a similar field, right? And what that does is it also sort of catalyzes your own growth, because a lot of people get to know, okay, he's so and so, he works with so and so company, this is the kind of expertise that he has. And if you have a really interesting point of view, obviously they will notice the kind of content that you're creating because of the conversations that you're having with them. And beyond that, I think it's largely also about discovering your style, right? So when you're starting off, there could be self doubt, there could be some sort of apprehension. Okay, why will someone listen to me? What is my content? How good is my content? So all those questions would be there. So 3 6 months into doing this, what you will also realize is, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is the kind of content that has clearly worked for me. And it also helps you to kind of discover your own style. Okay, this is the kind of content that works for me, this is what people think that I'm really good at. Then it also helps you to identify what your strengths are and what your weaknesses are, and you can build your weaknesses into strengths from there on. So, in terms of final thoughts, and I will also let Anandan add to this, is everything. It's whether it's building a business, whether it's starting on a job, or whether it's building a personal brand. Everybody starts small and then grows from there. So it's going to be zero. It's always going to be zero, and from zero you'll move to one, 200,000, right? And it's a slow and gradual process, and it can feel very painful at times, but the rewards are there for you to see. So, what I have personally experienced is that, for instance, if you are into content marketing, you go for an interview. They ask you, okay, can I see some of the content that you have built? All you do is send them the link to your website and tell them, okay, this is the content that I've written. And it gives them a clear idea of, okay, this guy has written content. He's not only written content, but his content also ranks for a certain keywords on Google. So that clearly shows expertise, right? Uh, so yeah, the rewards are there for you to see, but it's going to be a slow process. Read and stay updated. That's pretty important, because there's so many things happening in all the fields that you can think of, and it is very important to understand what is happening in the domain or area of expertise that you're looking at. Uh, be patient. It's going to be a slow process, and there could be cases where I have also seen that it's not just about creating content. There will be occasions where people will come and challenge your content. They'll say, okay, I don't agree with this point of view that you're sharing. But I think what it will also do you, it will give you a new perspective on things. And over time, I think it's also about defending your point of view. And you can defend your point of view when you keep yourself read and updated on what's happening in the industry or area of expertise that you're looking at. And also, I think you don't have to create new content all the time. And a lot of influencers or people who build a personal brand, you will see that all they do is they very carefully repurpose content and add a point of view, right? So if you look at some recent instance, like for instance, TikTok getting banned in India, everybody is posting that same piece of content. Basically, everybody is repurposing that same piece of content. But what makes it interesting is the kind of point of view you have on that entire topic. So don't try to reinvent the wheel. If you're putting out 3 or 4 pieces of content in a week, then you should look at repurposing at least 40 to 50% of it, and just focus on creating 1 or 2 pieces of new pieces of content which you think are original in that sense. And the most important thing that I would tell you is that there is this simple rule called the 80/20 rule. So you might have 100 people visiting your site, and you will see that not a lot of them are replying to the kind of content that you created. They're not engaging with you in some form. They're not putting a comment on the blog post that you created. So my simple advice here is that 20% of your audience will give you 80% of your engagement, right? And it's about finding that 20%. It's not about that if you have 100 people, all the 100 people will engage with you. It's always going to be that 20% which will give you 80% engagement, and those 20 will bring in more 20. So that's how it happens. Over to Anandan for his final comments, and then we can take questions.
No, I think you summed it up well, Suraj. I don't have anything to add. We can take questions. So, and I mean, so yeah, so everyone on the live, you can post questions on the right hand side of your screen. If you're on desktop or you just scroll down the video, and if you're on mobile, you will see a live chat section. You can post the question there. So in the meantime, so like we said, we can come up with a follow up session here along with like if you have if you get a direction, that because there are many channels on which you can build your brand, like we have talked about, it can be on your blog or it can be on any of the social media platforms. So we can come up with a specific list of say suggestions or a way or to how to build a brand on particular channel in our follow up sessions. So let us know either now through the comments or later, like we will share the feedback form. You can write to us, or you can connect to us on any of the social media channels and let us know. So we will plan the next sessions in a detailed manner for each of the platforms.
We'll give it a minute so that people can put in their questions and then take them one by
Yeah,
one.
that is one question, Suraj. You can take that.
Okay, so any thoughts on how to tackle challenges in justifying content creation costs to top management with reference to ROI, etc.? Okay, so I think this question is, I mean, not directly related to the topic, the personal branding, but I think my thought on this is, and I have been in similar situations before where people will constantly ask you, okay, you're creating so much content, where is the return on investment on this content? So I think, in a sense, there are really two aspects to it. You either spend money on paid media, which is to promote your content, or you spend money on creating content. Okay, you have to do either of it. You have to either amplify your content, existing content, with a lot of media spends, or you have to create a lot of content which organically gets you a lot of viewers and sales and awareness, etc. So in terms of content creation costs, I think if you're looking at purely driving it organically, and that is the SEO way of driving things, what you'll realize is that SEO is a slow and gradual process. So the ROI will come in 6 months, 1 year, and the way you can justify this is basically for if you're using paid media to get that same kind of traffic. So, for instance, if you are bidding on a keyword which costs you something like 15, 16, 20 rupees, and because you've organically built content for that particular keyword, and now that your article or your content now ranks organically on that particular piece of keyword, what you're doing is you're ultimately saving 14 rupees for each click that you would have spent otherwise paid channels. So the easiest way to sort of justify spends on content is to basically show the results and say how much money you have saved by creating that piece of content and getting it ranked on Google versus spending money on paid media.
Right. So you can also, Tanvir, you can also talk to the management on benchmarking certain business results or business hard key metrics. So this could be on, say, maybe how many people visited your website, like a pre and post kind of an analysis after you rolled out a certain stream of content. So it could be like if you're seeing content, so definitely it will not be like one post or one video, but maybe you are doing a series of posts in a month. So you can say that, okay, in this month we took this approach, and then what is the effect of, or like after doing so much effort on the content compared to the last month, either in terms of website visits or maybe on, say, leads, if you are in a if you are driving some business leads for the organization, or if it could be even on, say, if you are an e-commerce brand selling something, then you can also measure that whether it has improved your conversion rate on the e-commerce portal, or it has led to your uplift in the sales, or have you managed to reduce the cost of acquisition of a user on your website. So there could be many all of these business metrics can be mapped, and you can always plot it against the duration for which you had posted the content and do a pre and post kind of analysis.
Just to add to Anandan, and I think I have few examples. So if you look at very large companies, whether you're looking at GE or Alibaba or any other company in that space, what you will realize is that all these companies have built their own content hub. So Alibaba has something called as Alizilla, which is a content hub where they put out a lot of content related to Alibaba and their perspective on things. Then GE has something called as GE Reports. And both of these brands, what they've done is over the last 3, 4, 5 years, they've sort of built that particular website. It's more of a content hub where they put in a lot of content which is related to their industry. They also showcase content related to employer branding and a lot of other things that are happening within Alibaba and GE. And what has happened is, if you look at specifically look at GE reports, GE report has grown from something like zero subscribers to over 1 lakh 50 or 2 lakh subscribers. Now, this is a captive audience that you have built, and over time, what happens is if you have to use paid media to reach that same kind of audience, you can't. You have to spend a lot of money. Now, this is a captive audience that is available to you. You can organically put out your content, and there is an audience that is waiting for this kind of content to be consumed. Any other questions that the audience would have? So in the interim, when people post, I think we've shared both of our email IDs and our contact details, and also we put in the URLs to both our website. If you have any questions, you can reach out to us. We've also put in some of the content both of us create. Anandan has been writing for a long time now, and I have also been putting out a lot of content on my own site. So do look at both those URLs, and if you have any questions, you can reach out to us in terms of personal branding. I am also going to put in, so if you have any specific feedback on this particular event, you can share that with the URL that I've shared on the screen. And we also have a QR code that you can scan and sort of fill up that same survey. If there are any topics that you want us to cover in the next sessions, we could also look at doing that with the QR code, which you can scan and fill up the form.
Okay, so if there are no questions, then I think we can drop. And please do fill up the feedback questionnaire. I have also posted the URL in the comment section. You can pick it up from there. And so look forward to you all to the next session then.
Thanks for joining me.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Bye.
Bye.